Hey guys, I wanted to talk a little bit in this video about suppression and why I think it needs severely modifying for Battlefield 4. Now it's a blurry subject. You see what I did there? Blurry because your stream gets blurred. Never mind. I know a lot of people have been discussing it and debating it, but I wanted to put my 2 pennies worth into the mix. If you haven't seen it already, in Jack Fragg's Round the Table video, quite a few of us have some good ideas on what to do with suppression, and I feel confident that it can be changed and made better without the current drawbacks that it has. Let me start by explaining suppression for those of you who maybe aren't that familiar with it, or maybe you've been living under a rock for quite some time. Currently in Battlefield 3, if you were getting shot at by an enemy, or enemy players, but not getting hit, you get what's called a suppression effect. It's twofold, and the first part is a blurred screen. That isn't so bad, we can live with that. Your screen goes really blurry and takes a good few seconds to wear off. The second part is, however, the most frustrating one and annoying part, and that is an accuracy penalty. Basically, while you are suppressed, when you are aiming and shooting at an opponent, your accuracy is essentially randomized if you're being suppressed, and your bullet spread becomes completely varied and it is impossible to have normal accuracy anymore. I've got some examples here of exactly what I'm talking about. I'm in a server with a few of my friends trying this out. Now I have my friend Jay in front of me and he is on the enemy team. He's shooting above my head, but he is not trying to hit me. I am then aiming down the sights and pulling down the recoil, trying to control it. And as you can see, the bullets are going everywhere. After this, I'm doing the exact same thing, but Jay is no longer shooting at me. And as you can see, this time the accuracy is back and the recoil is easily controlled. Now here's a comparison shot of the difference between being suppressed and not being suppressed. Now a lot of you may be wondering why this is such a big issue, and I'm sure many of you think it's a good game mechanic. Well, the jury is out on that one. I have no doubt that opinions will be mixed and varied, some will love it, some will hate it, but I have good reasons I think why it needs to be changed. As a competitive player, having this sort of suppression effect at times is game breaking, and the brunt of so much frustration. Trying to hold a flag or hold an angle in a 5v5 match, or even attacking a point is made so much harder if you are trying to shoot someone. You may even be tagging them, hitting them, but then some other player starts shooting at you, doesn't even hit you, but that completely throws off your aim through no fault of your own, and you therefore do not kill the player you were first aiming for, and you probably end up dying. That is the problem with this game mechanic. It gives reward to people who are missing shots, and that works against people who are getting shot at but not even getting hit. It renders their aim useless, and for a competitive game that just can't work. Just imagine Counter-Strike if your aim went all random if someone started shooting at you. It would be ridiculous. There would be uproar that that sort of mechanic is in the game. The bottom line is Counter-Strike and Battlefield are games, and Battlefield is more of an arcade game in terms of FPS than even Counter-Strike is. People will argue that it's trying to be more realistic or whatever, but this isn't realism. This is not armour. Now I understand why they added it into the game. It was to promote teamwork and strategy. Support players would have to lay down suppression with their bipods at certain areas, then assault would strike at the point while the enemy was suppressed, and it would all blend and it would be like Saving Private Ryan and it would work amazingly well, but that really isn't how it ended up working. Anyone with a main weapon can cause suppression, and therein lies the problem. I've thought of many solutions, but the main one that I have come to is to move suppression to the support only. So only support players with LMGs could cause suppression, but other weapons, i.e. rifles, carbines, wouldn't. I think this would not only balance the suppression out a lot more, but it would also help the competitive esports, because mostly it's assault classes that are used, and support classes are very rarely used and mostly left alone, which would mean esports and competitive gaming wouldn't see so much suppression either. So I think it would potentially be a solution that would benefit everyone. There are other solutions. Another solution is to make it a server-side option that server admins can turn on and off depending on their tastes. And of course competitive games could also turn it off if they chose to do that. I do however understand people's worries about this, saying that it affects the game's consistency for new players, and people would have a different experience playing necessarily in public games than they would in matches, or going onto a different server could be completely different. I completely respect that. The only thing I would say is the game is kind of like that anyway. You could join a server and you could flick between hardcore settings. Some servers will have spotting on and off. Some will have friendly fire on and off. Each server can be different in its own way, so I don't think having suppression as a server-side option would have a dramatic effect or be much of a problem. That being said, I genuinely believe that if it was moved to the support class, it would really balance the game a lot better, and would then tactically give a reason for people to use the support class more. Just as a point of reference as well, we have suppression shown when I have the cover perk on, just so we can see how much the cover perk helps or doesn't help. Now bear in mind though that if you have the cover perk on and the other team or squad have the suppression perk, it then renders it pretty much useless anyway, as they both cancel each other out. As you can see, the cover perk does help a considerable amount, but there is still suppression present. It's also worth noting I was only being suppressed by a carbine, and not an LMG or high powered weapon, which would probably have made the effect even worse. So here we have it, my thoughts on suppression and why it needs to be changed. I hope you found this interesting and informative. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or whether you have any other ideas on how suppression could be modified, or maybe you don't want it modifying at all. Of course, these are only my opinions, and I'd really like to hear yours. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.